Hey everyone, this is Lacey with the Your Lyme Matters podcast. I have a guest joining me from Red Deer, Alberta. So hello, Natalie, but Natalie's full name is Carrie Natalie Mokelky. So hi, Natalie, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time. First off, I'll give people a little mini summary. Natalie has a patient experience with Lyme and perhaps co-infections. She does have a business surrounding Lyme disease and microscopy. Am I saying it correct?
Yeah, you are.
Live cell microscopy or cell microscopy or just microscopy.
Most people know it by live and dry blood analysis, but yeah,
Okay.
it's a nutritional microscopy.
Okay, thanks. So we'll definitely delve into a little bit about your business there as well towards the later part. So we identified you're in Red Deer. Did you have any co-infections or environmental illness diagnosis like mold? And then we'll get the ball rolling here.
Yeah, so I was bit by a tick in 2012. I'm diagnosed with Lyme disease by 2013. I had Borrelia, the Lyme disease. I also had Bartonella, Babesia, Mycoplasma. I had a history of mold since childhood, and there was all kinds of other things mixed in there too. So those are the
Okay.
main ones I remember, but I had a very complex health history and
Okay.
illness since childhood.
Did you say 2012 is when you got sicker? And then was it a year from then? Or maybe you can help break that timeline down for me a little bit.
So I had a lot of chronic illness in childhood, and I think mold was a big part of that. I don't know if I was exposed to Lyme disease as a child or not. One of the practitioners I was seeing said you may have been, but I got bit by a tick in my 20s in 2012 and immediately got very much sicker than I had been before. So, although I had a history of chronic illness before, it got much worse with the tick bite and the Lyme disease. But I want to let people know that I did have some chronic problems before that. So, the
Okay.
Lyme kind of just exasperated everything out of
Ah.
control.
Yeah, the icing on the cake, for lack of a
Yeah.
better analogy. Can you maybe give us a little bit of info when you say you had some childhood issues? Are you comfortable to say just generally what some of those health issues, whether they're physical, mental, or both?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely had mental health challenges growing up, which some very much could have been associated with mold and some head injuries like concussions as a child. I had depression. I had trouble sleeping. I had some challenges with anxiety and things like that. I was very sensitive and had a lot of chronic fatigue into my teens. Just a lot of chronic illnesses, flus and coughs and chronic strep throat infections and things like that. So a lot of underlying things. I just generally was not a healthy, happy, energetic girl growing up.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I that already gives me so much I want to ask about. Do you by chance remember if anything got worse after the strep infections, or not so much? The reason I ask is one of the NDs I interviewed first. She said sometimes that is another onset of other things.
Okay. I remember having strep for a few years in a row. It was usually around Christmas time after school. It seemed like when I finally had a time off, my body would kind of, and then I would get sick. So I don't remember things getting worse afterwards. I just remember being chronically ill kind of all
Okay.
the time, like a general uneasiness. I did have a vaccine injury when I was 12, which did affect fatigue a lot and
Yeah.
Bell's palsy, and I just never was kind of the same after that.
Yeah. We,
Um,
we we hear so much in terms of Lyme and co-infection world how even vaccination exposures can reactivate so many things as well inside of a human body, like other dormant viruses. And I'm sorry to hear you had a vaccine injury as well, because that sucks. So
Yeah, it wasn't fun. And honestly, I hadn't really put two and two together until I went back and really remembered everything and looked at the records and just thought, oh wow. So it was a whole bunch of things.
It sounds like a quite the mix of brewing there. And then it sounds like on top of all the childhood things, 2012, do you know where you were? Did you see a tick bite, or are you somebody that didn't see it but still know that that happened?
No, I know exactly where I was. I was on a camping trip in Nordig, Alberta. I was at a place called Saunders. We were hiking. There was an old mine there. We were quadding, camping with family. I got home probably Sunday. I was showering and washing my hair a couple times because it was really dirty. And I scratched the edge of this bug off of my head. And I looked and it was on my pinky, and there was the tick's body, and his head was still in my head. It had buried its way in there. And I didn't really know. I kind of was just like, ew, a spider. And I let it go down the drain of the shower. And then I got out of the shower and I thought, huh, I wonder if that was a tick. And then I had this spot on the back of my head that wasn't healing properly, and it was getting kind of itchy, and there was this thing there. And I had asked my fiance at the time, can you look at this? And he's like, oh, it's probably just a zit or something. And I said, no, I don't get zits on my head. Like this is something. And
Yeah.
I kind of brushed it off. I think part of me knew what it was, and I just didn't want to know. And I had kind of was picking at it, and there's like parts of that thing's head still there, and it was grossing me out. So I just kind of put it out of my mind. But immediately that week I had flu-like symptoms. The next week I had arthritis-like symptoms. The
Wow.
third week I had chronic nausea I'd never had before. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is this? Like, am I pregnant? Like, what's going on? It was such a strange course of events. It was very quickly, and by a month, I was sleeping over 17 hours. It was just crazy. My memory was already starting to go.
That was my next question is do you know now looking back when cognitive or any of those neurological in particular may have started? Would you attribute that back to childhood, or would you say perhaps starting after that month after that tick bite?
No, I definitely after the tick bite, within 3 weeks to a month, I was being affected neurologically. It was the weekend of August 2nd, August 3rd that I got bit. I was getting ready to go into my second year of nursing school for an RN program, and there was some kind of orientation before school started. So it was at like the end of August, and I wasn't usually late. I was an A student, and my instructor called me and said, "Hey, Carrie, you're late for our orientation." I was late by like half hour, an hour, and I was sleeping and I had completely forgot about it. I was just out of it. I don't even know if I made it to the orientation. The second year of nursing school, I had been told should be your easiest. You know, you got the first one out of the way, you're used to things, the classes aren't super hard yet. And all of a sudden I couldn't learn very well. I couldn't retain information well. My cognitive abilities were declining very fast, and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't really understand what was going on.
And in terms of the neuro, at any point, did you get any specific diagnosis with that?
I never had any formal diagnoses by any medical doctors.
Yeah.
But
If you had to take a stab at it, would you think anything was there that maybe was not diagnosed? Because sometimes we're not able to even get the diagnosis here. So we have to fill in the gap however we can. Anything you with your background and experience working with Lyme patients that you think maybe you had neurologically at all?
there definitely were. The two diagnoses that I did get from a medical doctor, one was irritable bowel syndrome, which I believe was actually the Bartonella. I had very bad pain after eating, and it was very bizarre. I'd never experienced anything like it before. He wanted me to get tested for Crohn's disease, and I said, that's silly. This just came on out of nowhere. And I had told him about the tick bite at that point. I had been previously diagnosed with fibromyalgia and ADHD, so those things were already on the table. even
Did
though
you say EDHD? Are you Ehlers-Danlos? Is that what I heard?
no,
Or
just ADHD.
ADHD? So glad you clarified.
Yeah, the general practitioner did confirm chronic fatigue syndrome, which had already been also a problem beforehand. But by December that year, I would say, if we're talking about self-diagnosing,
Yep.
I would say
In this case,
encephalitis,
I invite it. Yeah.
dementia. I had the beginning stages of dementia. I knew who people were, but I messed up on their names. I remember my twin sister asking me at a dinner table one night, "Can you pass the potatoes?" And in my mind, I was like, "What are potatoes?" I was word searching. I was having these blanks. Like, it was just ridiculous. I was not feeling safe to drive anymore. I wasn't retaining information in school anymore. It was very beginning stages of what I would call dementia, which is a
Yeah.
symptom, not a disease. And yeah, I had chronic pain in my head and my spine. It felt like my spine was on fire.
Where on your spine was the most of that pain? If you had to choose like a hand area of a hot spot going down, like
I
neck,
can't remember.
back, tailbone.
It felt like the whole thing, there was just like a metal rod on fire in my spine, and my head felt like it was gonna blow up, like it was a pressure cooker with no release valve. And I think that's encephalitis. I was with the fibromyalgia diagnosis, I guess there's other things called encephalopathy, myelitis.
Like
Yeah,
ME?
ME, yeah, and things like that. So there's things that the
Yeah.
medical world didn't realize what was going on, but I was seeing a naturopathic doctor at the time who said, "Yeah, I can give you a Lyme diagnosis based on your symptoms and the fact that you found a tick bite just based on that." And we ended up doing alternative testing to confirm the Lyme disease. But yeah, it was pretty serious within the first September, October, 4 months, 5 months. It was already to a point where I couldn't drive. I was thinking about dropping out of college. I was messing up on my cousins' names at family events. Yeah, it was.
Well, first off, I appreciate you putting a hypothesis as to what diagnosis you might have had, because I was one marker below dementia as well, and similar to what you're saying, as well as encephalopathy and encephalitis, also similar to what you're saying. But there was very difficult to find someone who's actually able to diagnose those in the entire province. I actually didn't get those diagnoses till probably 1.5 years ago, but had them. To your point, I think it's helpful for you to say that you had a pressure cooker brain, not brain. I said combined pain and brain together there in your brain, because I think that people listening, just if they've not experienced what a pressure cooker pain inside of your brain feels like, it's different than a headache. Is there anything?
Very
Can you
different.
elaborate a little bit? I'm guessing you probably had headaches as well. So how bad was that pain in your brain? If, as you know, out of 10, if 10 is the peak pain of your entire life, the worst pain you could possibly imagine.
Well, honestly, back then I would have called it a 12. Now I would probably call it a 9.8, because you always want to give yourself room, but it was bad. I remember drawing a pain scale, and it didn't start at 0. It started at there, mild, getting pretty bad. I want to kill myself. Like, it was so bad that I was suicidal.
Yeah.
Because it's not only like a migraine and it's a day or two and it's bad and then you get relief. It's like, this is every day. Have you ever heard that analogy of like holding a cup of water? And that's not hard, but if you do it for 5 hours or 10 weeks or 5 months or 5 years, it gets pretty bad to cope with.
I've never heard that analogy, but I like it, so I might use it sometime with your permission.
Well, it's not mine, and I don't know who I got it from, but you can absolutely use it.
We'll borrow it for sure. So thanks for elaborating on that. I think it just helps to validate those people sitting at home who don't have the encephalitis diagnosis, or the neurological diagnosis yet. They're in that discovery phase. So perhaps their family members can hop on here and hear two people. I'm going to call your clinic health background. I'm going to call my background unidentified health background, but I'm not actively working. This is personal experience discussion. So it's helpful for people to hear how bad that pain can be, and for people listening to know that perhaps they're actually underselling the pain to you. A lot of people are toughing it out when it is unbearable, as you say. And a lot of people, when that pain gets bad, they actually dissociate because the human body is in health programs. I won't specify which ones. They're taught that you manage the pain. You manage the pain, and the pain is whatever the person says it is, because the nervous system starts to get shot and the stress hormones, and the body is not meant to stay in that severe pain for how long we do with Lyme and co-infection. So I'm sorry to hear you experience that pressure cooker pain. I'm assuming that you probably don't have that pressure cooker pain very often, or it's much less severe nowadays if you do have it.
Yeah, it would be very rare now. I probably still have chronic pain that's there that I kind of ignore throughout my day, and it kind of rears its head sometimes if I've been on my feet too much, or if I'm really trying to relax and I realize, oh, like I really am in pain. But chronic pain, if people have been in it, it's kind of something you learn to live with. And I've really put a lot of focus on doing my best to not want to dissociate of my body and being one with my body, and learning how to listen to my body and say, okay, body, how can I help you? What do you need? And I do really enjoy techniques like heat or cold or massage or things like that to help with pain nowadays. But with the Lyme disease, it was so bad. Like I had to seek medications and things to use, because when it's that bad, it's agonizing. It's really unbearable. So I'm very grateful that I've gained so much healing that I don't live like that anymore. There still is some chronic pain going on that I'm continuing to recover from and heal and resolve, and continuing to learn about the human body and how to train it to get out of those old patterns. But I'm really grateful I can use natural methods now.
I'm sure your work also probably helps you discover even other things as you go along, and from patients, like what's working well for them and such. Now, the podcast has a special focus on what we call neuropsychiatric Lyme and co-infections, and I always clump mold illness in there as well, because it can equally have neuropsychiatric effects. Very difficult to manage. Can you tell us what were the really tough parts about the mental health in adulthood in particular? Were there any misdiagnosis or anything like that happened?
I think the biggest misdiagnosis that I wasn't diagnosed with until adulthood is PTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
The physician that I'm currently seeing, he doesn't differentiate between mental illness and physical illness. It's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And he believes that prolonged stress causes the body to go into these states of being chronically ill because it's not able to function how it's supposed to. So I wasn't diagnosed with that until adulthood, so that was missed, and it definitely contributed to why the Lyme disease that I experienced was so multisystemic and complex. It's something I noticed going to Lyme support groups at one point in my life, of the people that had it the worst also had trauma in their history and childhood, whether that was a physical trauma, a mental trauma, injury, all those kinds of things. So I found that interesting, and I kind of followed that thread in my learning.
I like that person combines them, because from my life experiences, the interplay is one and the same. The brain is the epicenter for everything. And also we hear the CPTSD and PTSD diagnoses are very common. One of my previous functional medicine practitioners would say, if you were to take the perfect, sarcastically, case study of like everything you can have that's going to complicate it, that's one of the huge factors with a high ACE, adverse childhood event score. Those people, along with a couple genetic things, sometimes is like, this is going to be slower, longer, more complicated, and then she would proceed from there. So you had the CPTSD diagnosis in there as well. A lot of people will relate to that. We also hear a lot of people, this the stress threshold itself of what would register as PTSD decreases as time goes on with the chronic illness, to
Yes.
your practitioner's point. So thank you for pointing that out. What would be the most difficult mental health related part about these illnesses, would you say, if you had to just pick maybe one or two?
I think the most challenging would have been having the Lyme disease and that neuropsychiatric Lyme, where you have a disease in your brain, literally, and it's affecting your personality and your thresholds for stress and pain and functionality. At my worst, I very much presented as very psychiatric case, rage, mood swings, paranoia. Oh, it was pretty wild, suicidal, just very erratic behavior. And I had already dealt with depression and anxiety and things like that growing up, which were hard enough, especially suicidal ideation in the teenage years. But when I had the Lyme disease, because Lyme disease was so very much misunderstood by the medical community, and I even had doctors telling me this doesn't exist here, you don't have it. When you're already in a state where you're questioning your reality because things are so out of whack when there's a disease in your brain, and then you start questioning your sanity, that was probably the worst thing with the chronic pain that was so bad and the situation I was in. I was suicidal and I was gonna go through with it. I was starting to write a letter one day and I couldn't write this letter. I realized, like, I'm really gonna do this if I don't get some help. So I actually went to the hospital and said, this is what's going on. And they asked if I wanted a formal admission to a psychiatric facility. And I ended up going there. And it was a very hard place to be when the medical doctor there agreed that I was in pain, that I was sick, but his colleagues at the university infectious disease department said, we don't deal with Lyme disease. And he says, I believe you, but we don't have the means to help you. While on the other end of the spectrum, there's a psychiatrist saying, this is all in your head. It's you've made it up. And when you're already feeling in that state, it's pretty hard to hear that. So I think that would have been the biggest struggle
Yeah.
mentally, is hearing that this is all in your head, when I was like, yeah, it really is all in my head. There's a disease in my body, in my brain, and it's very hard to be in that state of being told that when you have a serious illness going on.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm not sure if you relate to this specifically, but you speak about something in psychology world. I'm going to use the word gaslighting. You can agree or disagree. A lot of people experience gaslighting from practitioners, from their inner circles, from their social circles. And in your case, it sounds like you're saying, in terms of when you're seeking medical help, you experience that. But also, you hit another point there that kind of stood out to me, in a, like, I felt like uncomfortable, not that you made me feel uncomfortable, but the issue itself is when you're in a psychiatric type of place and you're kind of, acknowledged, yet sometimes still kind of gaslit. You're vulnerable in a
Very
psychiatric
much so.
area. So that's why it kind of hurts me. I'm like, oh, like, it frustrates me as well. But and then you mentioned something that's common of victims of gaslighting, whether it be whatever type of gaslighting, is self gaslighting, and that's a whole other, for some people, traumatic experience. Self gaslighting, because you're no longer trusting yourself, and that's what your compass is for stability. On top of that, the illness sometimes wipes that part, doesn't actually kick it out of your brain, but it wipes the function out of who you are as well. So you're describing, you mentioned early in your interview that you said it sometimes can affect a part of personality, like who you are. So you're vulnerable, and then you're trusted these people, and then the trust is broken immensely from the sound. So I'm sorry you had to experience that. It's unfortunately way too common, but you talking about it certainly helps other people to know that they're not alone in it, and myself included. I had decided at a certain point, when I was in an encephalitis flare, because guess what? We're not thinking clearly and encephalitis flares. I had also developed a plan at some point that I would sign up for the medically assisted dying. And I had enough insight to know I would never leave my dog. I had enough insight at the time to tell my partner, I'll wait until our dog dies and then I would like to sign up for it. And then we had this like pivotal moment where we said, no, this is not okay. We need to get you the help, even though you're being refused it. We need to get it. And we found a plan. And once my brain was not in encephalitis, it got less, those plans for me. What helped you eventually? So you're at this psychiatric type of place, trying to get help. Did some medications help you there, or did actually getting the proper treatment eventually, is that what helped the mental health symptoms, or a bit of both per se?
With the mental health crisis, the biggest problem was pain. So the physician at the facility I was at, he couldn't deny that I was in pain, so he actually got me a prescription for painkillers. At the time, it didn't get rid of the pain, but it dulled it enough that I could do the therapy that was available there. And the therapists in the group therapy programs and the psychotherapy were helpful in that they listened to me and believed my story, and they agreed that I might have a lot of challenges trying to get help in the traditional medical system because of the way things were, but they encouraged me to seek alternative healthcare and other avenues. And before I left the facility, I actually had enough hope that maybe there's another way, to heal and get better, and they gave me hope. So the facility, I experienced a lot of trauma from it, but I also experienced some good things from it. And I went home with some medication that was helpful to get me through and get the pain low enough that I could do some other things, and had hope to go home to and start learning about other ways of addressing the situation.
On top of the medications they gave you for pain, do you have a favorite one or two go-tos for like acute severe pain, or even that you used in the past?
I don't like using pharmaceutical medication, but there were definitely times when like I needed that help until I could learn something different.
What about the non-pharmaceutical strategies? So if you're in severe pain, what did Natalie do to get through that severe episode? Sometimes it's just crying. I tell people, sometimes it's staring at the wall. If that's what it is, then that's what it is.
I really liked hot and cold therapy, hot baths or a sauna. Infrared sauna was amazing. Hot tubs. I didn't like the chemicals, but once in a while I would do that. I loved cold therapy. I would put on a snowsuit and go lie down in the snow until I couldn't feel anything, and I don't know how good that is, but I loved bathing in nature in really cold water when I could. I started learning about Wim Hof later in those years, but I loved hot and cold therapy, cryotherapy, I think it's called. The infrared sauna was really nice because the heat felt good, but it could also help me to start detoxing and sweating and getting some of that deep stuff out once I had done the grunt work.
Yeah.
I really liked hot wheat bags. Essential oils really helped.
Is a hot wheat bag the ones you put in the microwave? Is that a hot wheat bag? I wonder, because mine has holes in it and it shoots little pieces of things that look like wheat. So I'm thinking maybe it's also a hot wheat bag.
Yeah, I liked those. I really like ginger and turmeric drinks. I would make my own. I actually still do that. I did it postpartum and it worked really well for pain. I put some hot water in a pot. I peeled and sliced up ginger root, turmeric root, added a little honey, sometimes a little cayenne, and then I would drink that hot or cold. And honestly, the natural anti-inflammatories really do dull the pain. It was amazing, and I still use that. It's really good for if you're not feeling well, but it also helps with pain and detoxing and inflammation, that kind of stuff. So
okay, I might add some cayenne to mine because I haven't tried with cayenne, so I might throw some in there, spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's a nice little boost. Yeah, and there's a drink called turmeric milk or golden milk.
Oh, I've heard that name.
Heard of it? I used to drink that when I had Lyme and before bed, and it just soothed me, and it soothed the inflammation, and it just felt so nice.
Okay.
I took a lot of salt baths, Epsom salt baths. And yeah, some essential oils were really nice for not only just the physical body, but the emotional health. Sometimes when you're feeling really bad emotionally, your body experiences that as pain. Depression and pain are very connected. So sometimes doing things that helped my emotions to feel better actually did feel better for the pain too. So even what you
Interesting.
said, crying,
Yeah.
eventually I got to a point where I thought, if I'm in pain anyways, why don't I start feeling pain on purpose? So I started exercising. Now, when I was really sick, that started with just stretching pretty well, gentle stretches, and
Mhm.
I would walk when I could. But then when I started doing kind of weight training, just with like 5 pound weights and strength training, planks, things like that at home, it started strengthening my body and my muscles. And it was a different kind of pain, and it was really positive. And I don't know, for some reason that kind of helped. So,
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
Interesting.
endorphins make you feel better, right? They're your feel-good hormones.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I figured, why not have a little pain from working out if I'm in pain anyway,
To
but
get a little
getting
bit
that
of gain.
benefits of endorphins
Yeah.
and sometimes even just cuddling a pet or hugging somebody. Like the oxytocin you get from that is a natural painkiller. Music. I am a musician and I would sing and play instruments. And it was enough to distract me from how I was feeling, but do something that made me feel good. And
While strengthening your vagal nerve, creating
yes,
vagal tone.
yes,
I love that.
singing, humming, blowing through an instrument really
You're
tones that vagus nerve.
you're talking about all the OG, like that can imply original gangster, or for me, that just means like ancient. You're talking about a lot of old school healing methods that don't cost a lot of money. And
No,
I like, that's probably why I've done and doing a lot of things you're mentioning, because the budget is long strapped many moons ago. And I love that you're saying that, because when you talk about the essential oils, as what you said, for us close to dementia, it can actually help bring back memories for some people as well. While you mentioned the moods and the pain, so I have one right here. It's not in my camera. It's tea tree and rosemary today. So those are my chosen ones for the podcast. So, and you mentioned the cold. That's such an old school therapy in health. A lot of us forget ice pack when something's encephalitis swollen. Perhaps one of the easiest things people can do is to startle, like shock ourselves out of the panic that's happening as well. So it's like a double-edged sword. So I love that you're saying these strategies that are free. I imagine they're going to be quite helpful. Now, you said pet. Did you have access to a pet, or did you have to borrow somebody's pet?
I had a cat at one point, so that helped. I really enjoyed other people's dogs and pets too.
Yeah.
I did have plants, not the same thing, but I would sing to my plants and I had a fish tank and would take care of that. And it was still some kind of interaction, even though
Yeah.
it was, when you're home alone and you're stuck in your home all day, it really did help.
I love that you sing to your plants. When I was really young, I saw a science experiment where they came and said nice things around one plant, and then the other one were like, "We hate you, you suck," and they're like negative energy, and that plant was shriveled. So your plants may have done better as a result of your singing as well.
Oh yeah, they enjoyed it.
So, in terms of what helped your treatment itself, if you had to name the primary methods of treatments, would that be herbals, pharmaceuticals, frequency? If you had to kind of summarize what helped you heal in terms of getting rid of the Lyme and co-infections the most.
I used all of them. I started with pharmaceuticals, then I went to herbals. And the more I learned and the more I progressed, it was a progression. If I could have chosen from what I know now, my favorite was electromagnetic therapy and frequency therapy.
Okay.
I think bioresonance and frequencies is the future of medicine. It penetrates through every layer of your body. It's very effective. It's very health promoting, other than just attacking the disease or trying to kill something. But I still use a combination and a very integrative approach of using herbals, using food, just your diet, plant-based medicine, well, and meats too, and things like that. But yeah, I really loved the frequency medicine.
Okay.
I still use it, and that was one of the things that actually got rid of the Lyme for good for me. and I still use PEMF therapy. It's great for pain and energy, and it changed my life.
If we had to, in a very short form way of explaining to people what a PEMF, so you can get the mats, you can get PEMF built into saunas. Like I know off the top of my head that has a lot of benefits. I believe microcirculation is one of those, but I could be wrong. If we had to say PEMF, is that kind of a frequency type of mat as well? Would you say, or?
Yeah, the one I started with. So for people that don't know, PEMF means pulsed electromagnetic frequency. I started with one that uses a mat that has magnets and electrical wires through it. It creates an electromagnetic field, and then the frequencies can move through that field to get through your body. Now there's so many different types. There's different prices, different brands, and some are medical grade, some are not. I got the medical grade technology and it really was worth it for me. I can't speak a lot about the ones that aren't because I didn't try them, but the device I use targets microcirculation, your blood capillaries, and it also enhances the cell's ability to convert what it uses to create energy. So it heals your cells and it allows the mitochondria of the cell to convert energy better. So the electricity electrifies those cells almost like a battery. It boosts them so that they have the energy to do what they were made to do. And the microcirculation in your body, that's what moves oxygen around. The more oxygen you have, the less inflammation. It also moves out waste products. The more waste in your body, the more toxins, the more illness and pain and inflammation you'll have. So that microcirculation, it's just helping your body to do what it already does, but on an exponential scale. But then the frequencies also do disrupt pathogens. They disrupt pathogenic growth. They kill parasites sometimes, depending on what it's very holistic therapy, but in my experience, it's been amazing. And with clients, it's been very successful. And it's very non-invasive. So that's my favorite part about it is no matter what else you're doing, some of the treatments people go through for health are very invasive, or they're painful, or they cost a lot of money. This one for me, it costs a lot up front to get the technology and the medical device, but I used it every day in my home and it made a world of difference in my quality of life. So
Yeah. It pays itself off in beneficial ways, it sounds like.
Absolutely. It was worth every penny, and I continue to use it for my health and share it with people and my pets and family that can benefit.
What I like about, like, I use a little bit of frequency, not an actual machine, but sometimes I'll put frequencies on my phone and things like that. And what I like about those types of things is you can use them in conjunction with other like treatment modalities. And like, so for example, parasite killing, like I've heard people will be passing things if they're using the frequency for parasite killing. And to kind of put it into perspective for people listening, because sometimes they're like, oh, kind of confused, or you zapping things, it doesn't make sense. But I'll just reference, there's actually mice sonar frequencies that make mice less likely to go certain spots in the walls if you set up those things, because each beings, they have frequencies that you could probably add in or explain it. That's all my only example to kind of put it into perspective for people when you're saying frequencies that do different things. In terms of the emotional aspect of how difficult this was, you mentioned animals and a couple of things already in there. What would you say your biggest one or two things that kind of kept you alive and going through the hardest parts of this?
I would say prayer and my spirit life. I believe in God, and that's what got me through. He got me through.
So
My prayer
your faith.
life. Yeah, my faith was a huge, probably the biggest thing that got me through. I don't think I'd be alive today without it. I really don't think I would know the things I know without it. I had definitely struggled in my faith journey when I was younger, and actually it was while I was at the psychiatric hospital, there was a poster in the group therapy room, and it was the Serenity Prayer. And I'll just say the quick version of it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, a courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. It just spoke to me. And after I went home and I left the hospital, I put that prayer up in my bathroom so I would see it every day, and I started saying it every day. And I didn't realize that this was getting me back into this prayer life and this connection with my faith. And my health started to improve as I was learning about detoxing and diet and herbal medicine, and incorporating these natural things into my life. I got to a point where I had made a lot of progress, but I was kind of at a plateau, and I realized I need God. I need something bigger than myself to get me through this. And there had been people in my family that had prayed for me, and there was a Bible study across a different country praying for me in some of these churches, and I was open to all that, and I think it made a huge difference in
Yeah,
my
I was gonna say, so you had some like you couldn't see it per se, but you had some help behind the
I
scenes of
had
other
yeah.
people.
I had other people pouring in. One day I just knelt down and said, "Okay, God, I believe in you. I'm ready for your help. I am still here. I'm not dead, so I must have a purpose." And I said, "I don't know what that purpose is, but if you help me to heal and you show me how to heal, lead me to the best practitioners, the best medicine, whatever I need, I'll do whatever you ask. I I'll live my purpose for you if you help me to heal." And so it really is kind of miraculous how certain things came into my life, and certain people and connections and information, and I really was led to everything I needed to heal and recover. And yeah, glory to God.
Would you do you think you would have made your practice there, your clinic, had you not had this Lyme and co-infection experience? Do you think you would have still wound up where you are today?
Absolutely not.
At
I
first, when you said
probably
absolutely so quick, I thought you were going to say absolutely. I was thrown off. I was like, oh, people don't
no,
usually answer that.
no. If I hadn't gotten sick, I would have stayed in nursing school, become an RN. I was gonna actually pursue pharmaceuticals. I wanted to be
Hmm,
a researcher for a pharmaceutical company, and I'm on
interesting.
the completely other end of that now. When I got healthy enough and my mind was healthy enough to actually learn and go back to school, I decided I don't want to go back to nursing school. I didn't want to go back to that institution that wasn't there to help me in the way I needed. I wanted to pursue my studies in holistic medicine and biofrequency medicine and things like that. So, yeah, my life looks very different than it would have otherwise. I also was reconnected with my faith. I don't know if I would have had that opportunity. I really went through some harsh suffering in those years, and I think it's what actually woke me up into actually seeking out that higher power and seeking out God, and coming back to my relationship with my creator and my faith. And so it was a blessing in disguise.
Keyword disguise. Yeah, it doesn't seem like
Yeah.
it at the time, but I hear often, and that's why I was curious if you would have wound up in that same profession. And it sounds like you had these unexpected things that are more aligned to what you want in life as a result of it. Is that accurate to say? Like you're more aligned in your career now because of your struggle.
It's the outcome of what I had wanted was the same. I'm helping people. I wanted to learn how to help myself and help other people with their health. I'm still doing that, but it's actually much superior, in my opinion, what I'm doing now than what I ever would have done on that other path. And I feel so blessed for all the things I've gotten to learn through searching further out from what I was familiar with, even just learning internationally. What are other countries and other experts doing around the world for this? Just because North America says, "Oh, you'll never get cured from this. You'll live with it forever. You'll just have to go into remission and manage the symptoms." And I said, "That's not good enough for me. I want to heal not only my body, but my mind, my soul. I want to have wholeness. My life now is so much better than what I had planned." It's
I'm
like
so
the
glad to hear because when you told me that you had that so many struggles as a child, including mental health as a child is very difficult. You know, you kind of said without saying it, like you were not the most happy, you know, like easy-go-lucky kind of child because you had these challenges. So my question is, are you getting little glimpses of what you missed out on? Do you get a little bit of joy? Is a big step from, you know, turmoil to jump to joy, but you have more little bits of peace now?
Oh, I'm completely different. I'm full of joy. I don't have depression anymore. Um, I'm full of peace. My life's amazing. And I'm not saying that I know there's people out there listening who are in a lot of pain and suffering, and I don't regret what I've been through. I'm not mad at my childhood or my adolescence or my young adulthood. I lived like an elder in my 20s, and I'm in my 30s now with a whole new lease on life because God really brought me through that and healed me, but He showed me that that was just my education. And because I went through that, I have the compassion to connect with people who are there now, and I can help them to heal. And I think that makes me a better health coach
Yeah,
and to help
practitioner of
people, a
sorts. Yeah,
better
cool.
healing practitioner or healing facilitator, because I understand what people are going through. But I love that I've healed from that. I've let go of that past. I've forgiven and gone through all that emotional work, and I love my life now. I have joy, I have peace, I have a beautiful family I never thought I would get to have. It's amazing. I feel very blessed and just grateful for the life that I've lived, even though much of it was very challenging. The first 28 years were pretty hard, but
Yeah,
you know,
I can only imagine because I didn't necessarily have as much in childhood. It was more later adulthood that it all started. So I can only imagine as a child. The brain is just not quite there yet as a child for that insight into what's going on, and it's very difficult. So I'm glad to hear you're finding joy now. That was my hope, and like, please say you have some joy now, please.
oh yes, every day.
So that's good to hear. So Natalie, sounds like your experience led you into developing a practice there. So I heard you say a health facilitator. What kind of titles do you give yourself to let our listeners know?
I am a health coach. I am a Lyme literate healing facilitator. I am a PEMF technician. My formal designation is a certification in nutritional microscopy. So some people know me as a blood analyst. I would call myself an integrative health practitioner.
Okay.
Because I do a number of things that integrate different aspects of health, but the short term would be a health coach.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So you wear many hats, is what I'm hearing. And
Yes, I do.
that's very helpful though with our patient population. To be honest, sometimes like the more the better than one specific niche. So I'm glad that you have some very variety for clients that would come to you. Now you said, and it's a tongue twister for me, microscopy. So I think that the listeners are really, I've actually seen this in some of the groups and they're asking about it even in this province. So I'm quite excited to ask you about it as well. So in a short summary, what is live cell microscopy?
So I would take a blood sample from somebody, and this is my favorite part, just one drop of blood. It's not a vial, there's no needles, it's just a little prick, a drop of blood. I look at that blood under the microscope and I look at your cells that are alive. The blood is alive, the life is in the blood, and I look at the behavior of the blood cells and the terrain of the blood. So I can see the function of the gut and the digestive system. I can see the function of the immune system with the white blood cells versus the red blood cells, how they're doing, their behavior. I can see sometimes deficiencies of different minerals or things going on, and I can see pathogens, mold, bacteria, fungus, things like that. Blood microscopy is really just another tool to see what is going on in the body and what does the body need to have better balance. Dry blood analysis is also really interesting.
Do you do both? Is that
Yeah, I do both.
okay?
So dry blood analysis, I use that same blood drop on your finger and I take a dry blood sample and we look at that and we're getting more of a picture of the organ systems and the body's health in that sense, which is really nice to see. I see a lot of the things that maybe general practitioner isn't looking for and that you might not find out in your routine blood work. So I can see how is the lymphatic system doing, how are the kidneys and the liver function, what's going on with hormones, and I can kind of see the cascade of things going on of maybe that thyroid or liver stress is actually coming from adrenal stress and the stress in your life or different kinds of things like that. So we're looking at more of the organ systems, and then I use all that information with a health history and we kind of get a picture of, okay, what does the body need to be supported right now? What is the biggest thing that it's communicating with us that it needs? Do some of the organs need cleansed? Do you need to detox from heavy metals? Are there parasites in the body? Things like that. We get to see the whole terrain, and then we're not guessing on, well, I think I need these supplements because I have this system. It's like there's no guesswork. You can actually see, okay, what does the body want right now for support? What does it want to focus on? And
Okay.
then I use it as a tool to monitor people's health. So if they're making changes in their diet or their lifestyle, or if they're taking supplements or doing different things like that, then I use it to monitor, okay, how are things going? How's the body doing with these detox practices that we're doing? Does it need something else now? So it's
Okay.
a nice alternative tool to use
I
to.
never actually even thought of that for monitoring, to be honest, because I'm learning about this as you tell me it, and my brain didn't even think, oh, actually, you can do an intervention of sorts with somebody, the patient, and you can decide on it, and then you could come back and say, did this have an effect, and look at it again.
Right. Yeah.
I never thought of that. So monitoring is another function. I also didn't know that there was dry blood analysis versus live blood cell microscopy. I didn't know that those are even two different components. So that's also good to know. I heard you mention parasites. So can you see parasites in the microscopy, or would you come to that conclusion from the dry blood analysis, or both?
You can see them in both samples. I can tell if they're alive or if they're dead and the immune system's taking care of them. Sometimes I'll have people do different things for parasite cleansing, whether it's a medication or an herb or frequency therapy, and they want to see, did it work? How's it going? Or if people have traveled or something, or they're just curious where they're at. So yeah, I can see it in both the live and dry blood analysis.
Okay. So mold, bacteria, fungus. However, can you tell that it's specifically a Lyme bacteria because of the shape of it, or is that something that you'll still maybe send for private Lyme disease testing somewhere?
I don't do any diagnoses, and
Okay,
I
good
also
to know. Yeah.
cannot observe specific bacteria. Sometimes in the dry blood analysis, I can see corkscrew shapes
That was
of
what I was wondering. Yeah.
things, but I can't tell you that's Lyme disease or that's not. I don't have the training for that, and my microscope is not that, I can't zoom in that closely to specifically see the pathogens. I just haven't been trained that specialized. It's
That's
more
fair.
of a
Yeah.
general of I can see what's going on in the body. I can see either there's bacteria or I can see candida. I can't tell you what kind of candida. I can tell you maybe what's going on, but not the specifics, not the subspecies, things like that.
Okay.
That's not in my scope of practice.
Oh,
But I
we appreciate immensely because this is helping so many people get an idea. Like, I want to go just kind of check out what category is present in my blood. Is it mold? Is the fungus still showing lots there? And you mentioned alive and dead. I believe it was when we were talking about the parasites. Can it show alive or dead for the other categories as well, or is it certain categories like parasites?
I won't usually see anything else that's not alive in the blood. Just
Okay,
sometimes I'll see parasites that have died or they've been broken in half or they're not alive anymore because the body is moving them out.
broken in
Um,
half.
yeah, it's very strange. I don't know how that works, but that's what I'll see in the blood.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know if you still do little random tests of your own blood for fun when you're not busy with other clients, but does someone's blood with Lyme disease eventually show less bacteria category under the microscope if they're pretty close to remission, or does it still show in there either way?
Some of the bacteria I see as part of the natural gut microbiome. I can tell kind of if it's your sort of good bacteria versus not so good bacteria, but everybody kind of always has some, and part of it is the natural gut flora. So with clients with Lyme disease, we're looking at so much more than just Lyme. We're looking at how is your body doing? What does it need for support? Oftentimes I'll see that their liver's stressed out, their lymphatics are way backed up. So how can they possibly detox? We're looking at other ways of how to support the body. We're not really focusing on the Lyme. Because I had Lyme disease, I do know how to get rid of it. You know, you can use these types of herbs, these types of frequency therapies, and then we'll use detox therapies to help actually get those things out of their body, parasite cleanses and things like that. So I'm not so much focused on you have Lyme in your blood because I can't actually see that, but it's more of a focus on their whole health as a whole person. My business is very holistic, and how do we get you feeling better? How do we get your body detoxing and in a better state where it has less inflammation and you can have a better quality of life.
Right. The terrain is so important. And I often encounter people just through conversation where the organ function is not addressed whatsoever. And then they get this heavy treatment, and it's very bad negative symptoms that come with it. So I'm happy to hear that you do consider the terrain, because as you know, if your lymphatic system is backed up, that's something that needs to be addressed. Do you have something at your clinic there by chance for backed up lymphatic systems?
Yes, we do. So I have a pressotherapy machine. It's a
Is
compression suit.
is that the same as a Lymphspresso? I've heard that name, or is this espresso kind of that puffy, the
I've
puffy?
never heard that name. I just know the term pressotherapy, but
Okay.
it's a lymphatic drainage compression suit. So it has parts that go on the legs, the abdomen, and then the two arms. It blows up with air, and the air compresses your lymph, and then it kind of goes in a progression of series. So it's moving your lymphatics, and it works really well. I've been to probably over 15 massage therapists in the last dozen years. Maybe two of them were really skilled at lymphatic drainage. This machine works better than the massage therapist that doesn't really know how to do the lymph properly.
Okay, I like that you're actually differentiating. That's super helpful, because a lot of people have not addressed the lymph at all. So they don't know. And so it sounds like there's this option, the presso, there's the lymphatic practitioners, and it sounds like you're saying the highly skilled ones are hard to find. You can
Yeah.
find them, but you may spend a lot of money unnecessarily to get the ones that are not properly trained in manual lymphatic massage and drainage, like the proper certifications and stuff to. And then to add the layer of chronic illness and how fragile we are. So that's another layer that a practitioner may have. I'm lucky I had one of those at one of my clinics. However, I also understand that a lot of the other people I saw had no idea, like did not have her experience whatsoever.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she's a dime a dozen. I've not seen anyone like her in a very far parameter of where I live.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, is there anything else at your clinic in terms of tools? So you've got your microscopes, you've got your presso machine, a lot of holistic work in terms of a dynamic with yourself. And anything else about your clinic that you'd like to share with people if they're considering using it either as an adjunct to their current treatment plan, or just simply coming to you to sort out their terrain and see what's going on in their blood?
Yeah, I'll just correct you. It's not a
Please do.
clinic,
Please do. Yeah,
because
thank
I'm
you.
not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but it is a Health and MediSpa.
MediSpa. Okay,
And
got it.
we have the microscope for blood analysis. We have the pressotherapy machine for lymph drainage. We have a medical PEMF device.
Okay, so you've got one there as well that
Yeah, that people
clients
can
can
come use. We have an infrared sauna that some people come to use. And we also have an advanced PEMF device that we can use. So we have those therapies. I also have supplements and herbs and teas and some natural things that people can pick up if they need them. And then I do health coaching, kind of like integrative therapy. I'm not a certified professional therapist or anything like that, but I do one-on-one health coaching with people that want to talk about how to help them get healing in their emotional health, their spiritual health, their soul. So
Very important piece to sometimes help people get on the right track. Perhaps people in the discovery phase do also help them get on the right track.
absolutely. I see people of all walks of life, all ages, all kind of journeys. Some people are just starting to want to do something for their health. Some people want preventative health. Some people are in a crisis and they don't know who to go to because a doctor or a therapist or someone else might just really not understand their unique health situation. So I provide them with tools and resources, and sometimes I'll recommend other types of practitioners that can help them. Because my health journey has been so complex for myself, I've learned so much, and I feel like I have such a wealth of knowledge and resources to share with other people to
Yeah.
help them on their journey. So yeah, some people come to me for a bulk of services and things that they need, and sometimes I'm just a go-between where I have some information to give them that can help them somewhere else. So I'm really just happy to help provide the tools, and some people just need to be heard too.
That's what I was going to ask. If during those consults slash coaching sessions, what do you find people are most deprived of? Would that be validation of what they're experiencing, or would that be isolation?
Some people need validation, but I think most people need hope. I see a lot of people that they've tried a lot of other things. It's helped, but it hasn't really been sufficient in providing for their needs. And I really love giving people hope because I was at such a low, almost died multiple times place in my health, and I love to provide people hope of saying, here's your other options and here's what we can do, whether you're already using a traditional form of medicine or something else, or you're not and you want different options. What I do is very complementary, and it's also alternative if people just want a completely different path. So I love providing people with hope. And something that some people are also seeking is permission. Not only
Ah,
validation, but the permission
yes.
to spend time healing themselves and doing the things for their bodies and souls that they need to thrive. And I'd say the third thing
Those are
people
great.
are
Is there a third?
lacking, yeah, there's a third.
Yay. Okay.
It would be faith. It would be spiritual connection. We were made in the image of our Creator, body, soul, and spirit. And a lot of people don't even know about the spirit. And people from different walks will use different language for that, but it's the part of you that was made in the image of God that you can connect with, and you can connect with God. And I know not everyone's open to that, but I love to share my testimony and my faith with people to say, this is an option, and it's far surpasses everything else, because when you have a creator that's limitless, that knows everything, you team up with that creator, and it's beautiful, the healing that can happen. The healing I tried to achieve on my own in so many years was exponential after I reconnected with my faith.
Yeah.
It was exponential. The healing I got of being told when you're little, you'll have depression forever, you'll have to be on medication for life, to I don't have depression, I don't take any pharmaceuticals, I'm full of joy. There's true healing you can achieve with the great physician, with the healer. I like to call him Yeshua. Lots of Christians call him Jesus. There's true breakthrough and healing you can achieve when you're open to that. And I don't like to push my faith on anybody, but I like to let them know this is an option and it's there. And if you want someone to help you walk through that or start that journey, I'm happy to be a resource. I'll pray for you. We'll talk about some things that might just help you to get you going. But yeah, I love sharing my faith with people. So
Well,
hope,
yeah, it's helpful.
permission, and faith, like those things, the Bible says if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can accomplish great things. You can move mountains, and I really believe hope is the starting point for those people who are just desperate, who are lost, who feel broken.
I didn't expect these answers. So that's why I really enjoy them: hope, permission, and faith. And it sounds like you said if someone is not open to a religious faith, spiritual connection, something to share that difficult journey with, not just by yourself anymore, essentially. And you could see the joys when you speak about your faith as well. You can feel it. So I'd imagine people in your presence would feel that energy regardless if they believe the same religion or God. Is there any patient that you think that would not be a good fit for your MediSpa? I'm going to say it properly this time. MediSpa. But do you sometimes recommend that someone maybe sends the blood work for Lyme specific testing as well at some point?
No, I feel like you have two questions in there, so I'll answer them both separately.
Sure.
First, the people that it wouldn't be good for them to come see me. If you're not willing to make a change, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, time making changes in your health, some money, and I don't want to see those people who aren't willing to make a change. You have to be ready to do something, whether it's making a change in your mindset or your lifestyle, or being willing to invest in the things you need to do to improve your health. I can't see you if you're not willing to do that, because I'm there to coach you through it. So you have to be willing to show up and saying, okay, I'm ready to do something. I'm ready to take a step forward, and I will help you through that. I will encourage you. I'll offer you things that I think are going to help. Your second question, more catered towards the Lyme things. Now, I believe that there's a lot we can do for your health without having specific diagnoses, because we can see what's going on in your body, and sometimes getting the body to a place where it's supported enough and it's detoxed enough, it will start healing things on its own. In particular with Lyme, I do believe people need a treatment for that. I don't know if the body can get rid of that on its own, and I won't go into the reasons why, because that's a whole other topic for another day. But I do believe people need to
some sort of
treat it.
agent to treat the pathogens, is what you're
Right.
saying.
I don't know.
I agree. Yeah,
I
agree.
don't think the body could just get rid of that on its own, because
If it could, we'd all be healed 10 years ago, right? If the body was able to do it by itself, none of us would get as bad as we were just on its own. So yeah.
There's evil in this world, and that thing is evil. So
the tick,
well, the
bacteria.
pathogens.
Yeah.
But if someone wants a specific diagnosis, that's something I cannot do. I do have resources I can point you towards, and I would love to help with that because I learned lots about that when I had Lyme. So if you're looking for a Lyme diagnosis, that's not something I can provide. But if you know that you have Lyme or certain co-infections, I can absolutely help you to get rid of them. I've done it myself. I know how to do it. And there's other practitioners that I can help recommend you to if we need more specific type of testing or monitoring or things like that.
Okay. So you're saying you want them at that point where they're considering that change and willing to do it, versus someone that's closed off to everything you're going to say and wasting the money. We'll go to the second question, which was, would someone get Lyme testing sent out of country? And it sounds like you're saying sometimes you'll refer to other practitioners. However, you could get started on the terrain work as well. So it may not mean that people would need to delay seeing you. If they could potentially go at the start as well, and perhaps use you in conjunction if they want to get private testing through Armin Labs or Igenics or one of those other ones, whatever they choose. You might help even connect them to another practitioner to do that. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I do think even once you find out you have Lyme, you do not want to start tackling that Lyme disease without having your body in a better state of health. That's something that some doctors aren't familiar with, and it can be dangerous. So someone will start taking antibiotics or a special herbal mixture of things to start killing this Lyme bacteria, but we didn't deal with the mold, we didn't deal with the heavy metals, we didn't deal with the parasites. Now you're having all this die off and toxins let out from these dying things, and your body's not in a state to detox and let it out better. And that's a dangerous situation. And I went through that firsthand of just not understanding health, not understanding my body, trying to get rid of a disease without getting my body into a state of health where it could handle loading off the die off and the consequences of getting rid of that disease. If you think you have an illness going on, or you know you have Lyme, but you want to be in a place where you can handle going through the treatment, seeing somebody like me is a really good option, because I'll help you to be in a place where you're supporting your health and doing that. So we can look at what else is going on, what do we need to address first, where you're in a state where now you can start treating that Lyme disease for co-infection, and you're not going to go into a state of complete non-functionality from it, right? My goal is to improve your quality of life, and there's a way where you can tackle this illness and stay relatively functional and have a quality.
You're talking about this, not putting someone into something that's going to tip their nervous system when you go too high too fast. And then when you tip the nervous system, we know that stress, it decreases immune system function, and it continues around, and it's actually traumatic when people
It's very traumatic.
They do way too much medication, and you feel like sometimes we go into psychosis even with the encephalitis. So I appreciate immensely that you said that. I cheered and I forgot I have my emergency hair elastic. I don't care. So thank you very much for saying that.
Yeah, that's what's so important about having a Lyme literate practitioner. And that's what my MediSpa specializes in. It specializes in detoxification and healing. So I really spent a long time learning how to detox properly and safely, because it can be very dangerous if people don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
And put them in a worse state and make them sicker a lot longer than if they had done it the right order and the right way. So my hope is to help people do things in the right order and safely, and have improved quality of life, instead of just taking all this stuff, feeling awful, getting sicker. That's not health. Detoxing is hard, and you definitely won't feel amazing when you're doing it, but there's ways of doing it safely where you'd only feel bad for a couple days. And if you're doing the right things and taking the right things, it goes pretty fast. And then it's like, oh, I actually feel better in this area, and I can have more quality of life in this area. And then we can do a little bit more and a little bit more, instead of just piling on the treatments and then being bedridden for 6 months.
And then stopping, and then a lot of those people stop treating altogether. They're like, nope, I almost died last time. I'm not doing anything ever again. And to be fair, you would be scared to try it again. So,
well, and I've been through that, and it's traumatic as it is. So we're trying to avoid more trauma and go a route that's slowly and progressively better.
I'm happy to hear of another resource in Alberta. Now that I know a bit more as well about what you do at your MediSpa there, that's awesome. Two things I want to cover here before we wrap up. I want to brief people on how to get a hold of you. Let's start there. Would they go to your website? And if so, what is your website URL?
Yeah, my website is mokelkyhealth.ca. You can find me on Google.
Okay, so on the website there, does everybody book an initial appointment first off for any of the services, or does each service have sort of a different process?
It just depends what people want. Some people call me and they just want to do PEMF therapy. Some people just want a lymph drainage session. Some people want to come get their blood done. Some people want the whole works. Okay. It really depends. Usually I would have you call me and we would have a conversation on the phone and discuss what your needs are. And with people that are coming from out of town or further away, I'm able to, work around that and be flexible. And, it really just depends. what people need and what they want.
If someone does either the microscopy or the dry blood analysis, how long does that take? So would they do that in a first appointment with you, or would that be a second appointment?
Yeah, most people, if it's your first time, it will take at least 90 minutes. It's not a quick process because I will do a health history with you. We'll talk about your health history, your lifestyle, your diet, different things like that, as well as looking at your dry and live blood. It takes a bit of time, and we'll take an afternoon, we'll chat. And then sometimes I'll recommend another therapy if I think they need something else. And we'll talk about things that they can do at home, and I'll offer them things I have if they want them, but I'm not a salesperson either. I don't push
Yeah.
things on people. I'm very easygoing that way.
Mhm.
And I'm also willing to work with people because I know how expensive it is to have Lyme disease. And because of that, and knowing that it's not easy to work when you're sick, and even just living in our times right now is not the easiest for some people.
Yeah.
So you have to have something. I can't work for free, but I'll try and work with you to do what you can do, like where you are at. What do you have to invest in, and what other kind of things can we do that don't cost money to help you, and things like that. And sometimes I'm even willing to do trades
Oh,
for
okay.
services and things like that. I'm pretty open-minded.
That's really interesting, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
it helps to open access up to, as you said, those ones that they are only going to be able to pay for one appointment every 6 months to a year sometimes. So
Right, and that's okay, but like, sometimes it's like, well, if you're a photographer or you're a massage therapist or you have something you can offer me, like I'm pretty I'm pretty open-minded to things like that. Not in my typical day-to-day, but once in a while I'll say, I really like something that you offer, and I have something to offer you. And so I like that. I like being able to provide that for people and letting people know at the end of the day, I have a heart, and, I want to help people that need it. And I'm also, need to have healthy boundaries for me and look after my family.
yeah, yeah,
Because this is a home business for right now. Like, I have my office in my house. It's very close to our family and our home. And there's a lot of expenses with, the equipment and all that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, it's in our house, and that allows us to be a bit more flexible with people
Oh,
sometimes.
okay,
So
okay.
I'm not in a building with strict hours or regulations or things like that. I'm in control of my environment. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to offer people other options if they really need them.
I run into a lot of people in that exact situation, right? Where they have the finances, maybe they can get the first appointment or whatnot, but they do have skills. It's just they can't regularly do them because of the illness. It's only certain days that they can go build something, for example, or make an art
Right.
painting. And if they get that done, it's worth quite a lot. A lot of people have a lot of really good skills that are sick.
Yeah.
The last thing I'd like to do is just leave a bit of an open mic to see if you have anything you'd like to say, maybe to give hope to somebody listening who might have been temporarily without hope.
Yeah, I just want people to know there's hope. You can heal, and there are people out there that have the tools and the knowledge to help you do it. I was at the lowest of what I can imagine exists, and debilitated, bedridden, dementia, no hope for a future. I lived that, and I'm healthy now. I'm happy now. I have a
Joyful.
beautiful life. Yeah, I'm full of joy, and my whole life's been redeemed, and I just want to share that hope with people that there are other ways. There's always another way. There's always another option. Don't make a permanent decision based on a temporary situation. Don't do anything you're going to regret. I was in the same boat as you, where like back when I was sick, I wished MAID was available in Alberta. And
Yeah.
it was only available in Quebec at the time. And boy, am I glad that wasn't available at that time, because I wouldn't be here.
Mhm.
And now I actually disagree with that service in most cases. And I think it's really sad that people have lost so much hope that they're resorting to ending their lives with the help of the medical system. I think that's a tragedy. And I have compassion for people who feel that way, but I want to give hope to them that you don't need to give up. even though you feel like there's no other options, there are other options. And if you haven't tried them, what's the harm in trying? So please don't give up if you're in a place where you feel hopeless.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
if that is what somebody's main thing is, they don't have that hope anymore. It sounds like if you need someone to help give that hope, perhaps contact Natalie.
I would love to share some hope with you and let you know about the other options that exist for healing and
Right
quality of
track.
life. Yeah, I would love to provide hope for people. And even if you don't want to come get your blood done, but you just want to have a conversation on the phone for 20 minutes, if you need pointed in the right direction, or if you're too far away to come see me in person, I'm happy to be a resource for that. I'm happy to share resources. So yeah, I really do just want to share hope with people.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I think there's a lot of people that need the hope. So they're going to be soaking it in when they're watching this. With that being said, thank you so much for taking the time to let the community know about a resource here in Alberta and Red Deer in particular, and letting people know the ways that you're also making it a bit more flexible with accessibility and such. So thank you very much for joining me. That concludes our episode on the Your Lyme Matters podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Lacey, and God bless you and everybody watching. And I just pray that you continue to recover and gain healing in the areas that you need, and that there's joy reintroduced into your life.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that immensely.